Hello, welcome to the Eddie Conversation Podcast. My name is Eddie Vigil and I am your host. I am a filmmaker living in Los Angeles, California. This is episode number 57. Joining me today is Ali Griffin Vingiano.
Hello, thank you for having me.
Yes, thanks for being here.
Yes.
Lovely. I'm going to do a little brief intro.
Okay.
Super brief. And this is, I'd like to go to people's social medias and see how people describe themselves. So like you have yourself described as a writer, a filmmaker, actor is your trio there.
Yep. That's it.
Yeah.
You read it right.
And I don't know, I could list, okay, you also, I know as of late, you've also been you've been noting the yoga background, the yoga instructor background.
That's true. I'm doing writing and yoga retreats.
Yes.
So I am a yoga instructor, but I actually don't teach the yoga portion of the retreats. I focus on the writing, and I get a more dedicated yoga. I mean, I do a little bit of the yoga on the retreats, or I'm planning to, but I'm also bringing in like an incredible teacher who will lead most of those.
Right.
So I'm definitely more of on the writing side of that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Noted.
Well, but
go for
sorry,
it. Go
I
for it.
realized I didn't know. No. That's fair. Yes.
Well, yeah, we'll dig into that
Okay.
in hour 3 of the show.
Oh God.
and I guess just to clarify too for people, as a writer, your most recent credit that people would recognize is of the morning show Apple TV's season 1 and 2, if I'm correct on that.
That is correct.
Lovely. Great. Okay. Where do we start? Because I know I want to talk to you about a lot of things. I also want to re-ground myself in our interactions too, based on, I believe, because we met pre-pandemic.
I think
Very
we met
briefly.
right before the pandemic.
Mm-hmm.
We met at, I think, a Film Independent director's close-up.
Great.
And I think it was February 2020. And because I know director's close-up, I'm doing it now. I've done it for the past 3 or 4 years. It's January to March, typically. So we met sometime between January and March, right before the pandemic hit.
Oh my gosh. Okay, great. I'm glad.
And then we just followed each other on Instagram, I think.
Yeah. I thought you were going to go somewhere else with that. I thought you were going to say, and then we became best friends.
No.
No.
We didn't become best friends. We haven't seen each other since then. But we became acquaintances and social media friends.
Yes. And I will say, I guess, very quickly too, that I think I reached out to you last year as well. I mean, just social media wise, that you were the one. The social media is so weird, like Instagram. I know. Okay, last year, because there's the End of Us. You acted, starred in the End of Us feature film that's a whole thing too.
Okay.
When you posted about that, I was going through because 2020 was a thing, as we all know. My creative spark was missing, and I was kind of just like in just survival mode, I guess, just trying to go day by day, and I didn't really have the energy to create, and I didn't have the ambition to, and all that stuff. But for some reason, your description of, because you posted about the South by Southwest acceptance of the End of Us, and you had a nice little thing, which I don't normally see from creatives, of you had a nice description of like what you guys did to make the thing, and that description like sparked my creative and pushed me to make my feature last year.
That's so cool. I'm so happy to hear that.
Yeah. So thank you.
Yes. I feel like making anything in 2020, I felt compelled to share how we made it because it was such a hard time to create anything. And the reality is now that the pandemic, it's eased up a little bit, but it's still so hard to actually go and create something. You have to put so much into it and believe in yourself so much, and it's hard.
Yeah, always. Yes. Okay, so with all that being said, as our foundation moving forward, I do want to talk about the multi-hyphenate aspect of you and how gee, is that where I want to start? And then
Go for it. It was your instinct.
it was
Let's do it.
okay, so writer,
Mm-hmm.
filmmaker, actor. In the end of us, because I guess just to clarify, I did watch the film,
Great.
so I can talk a little bit more specifically on what was involved in that and stuff.
Sure.
On that one, you were okay.
I was an actor on that
Yeah,
one.
yeah, you were an actor. Jeez, all right. I'm thinking about a lot of things here. So yeah, you guys wrote that. You guys built that based out of an outline. So you were acting in it, but you were also using a lot of the writer brain stuff to get through that.
I mean, I
I'm
didn't
assuming.
write it. Like, it was written by Stephen Cantor and Henry Lovner, who were
Mhm.
the directors and cinematographers and sound engineers, and, they made the whole film. But it was written from an outline. So, they brought me an outline, and I gave them some initial feedback on what I thought, and they incorporated what they wanted. But it's not like I was a writer on it, so they were, it's not like I was like, we need to have this. I just gave them my perspective, and we improvised so much of the film. So a huge part of it was waking up every day and being like, okay, what did we shoot yesterday? What do we need to shoot today? And then being like, okay, this scene is like, you guys are going to get into a fight about this, and then you're going to bring up this thing. And then, so we would really improvise based on those points, the story points we needed to hit. So I used a lot of my writer brain in terms of like improvising the dialogue and also getting the story to actually move forward. A lot of times with improv, you can just get stuck on like a joke, but because I do have such a writer brain and I'm so story focused, I think it was easier for me to be like, okay, what story point do we need to get out of the film, and how can everything build to that point rather than just bullshitting some, jokes.
Yeah.
So I think writing and my writer brain was so crucial to like being able to act and being able to perform well in that film and being able to help with building the story. But I didn't write it.
Yeah, understood. Okay. So when when I was watching it, okay, I'm going to build framework for people that aren't more unfamiliar with the movie too really quick. So my understanding is this was semi early in 2020 pandemic living, where I feel like it was summer of 2020 or late
That's
summer.
accurate.
Okay. And it was 2 weeks in an Airbnb with 4 creatives, including you.
5, yeah.
5.
Yeah.
Okay. Great.
Mm-hmm.
So I was watching it and I didn't really know what to expect. I know I'd seen the trailer and I'd seen your posts. And like one of the biggest things that stood out to me was like how many moments were captured, like how many little scenes, and like I was tasked with directing like a 7-day feature last year. And I know that I pushed the producer on like I'm not gonna go over the 12-hour thing. If you're asking for this, I'm gonna keep it within. I'm not gonna overwork the team and all that kind of stuff. Was a big thing on my side. So what we ended up doing was like huge chunk scenes. It was like 15-minute scenes, very long dialogue bits. So when I watched this, knowing the 2-week structure, I was expecting a lot more lengthy scenes, but it was just there's so much happening and so many little bits. So that was crazy. And I don't know what that was like how is my question.
How did we do that?
How?
Well, it seems like you were running your set like you wanted to follow IATSE rules, and you wanted to we were 5 friends who had all worked together at BuzzFeed. I'd improvised and made films with Ben before, my co-star Ben Coleman. I'd been directed by Stephen and Henry. I had definitely worked with Claudia. She'd acted in stuff I'd done. I think she might have directed something I was in. I definitely directed her, actually. So we'd all worked together before. And we were willing to do whatever it took. So we weren't wrapping after 12 hours. You
Yeah.
know, I will say we didn't start, like, we would wake up at like 8 and I ran a mile every morning just to get my blood flowing. And, you know, then we'd sit down and they'd have coffee and they'd discuss what we were going to get that day. We didn't some days start shooting till 10, but we shot until 10, 11, midnight. We did work really fast, you know, like Henry and Steven are just so good and they can work really fast. And we hardly did any, you know, there wasn't excessive lighting. I think we had like an LED panel and like a couple LED panels and like, I forget what else. I don't even think we had a ring light, but we did a lot of natural lighting. And I will say we shot 2 weeks in an Airbnb, and then the exteriors of like walking throughout LA, like what we shot, like some of the driving scenes, some of the scenes of like when I'm with Derek de Blasius, who plays Tim, and we're like walking his dog. Those we shot outside of the 2 weeks. So I think there are probably like 25 shoot days in general. Some day might just be, oh, let's go pick up that shot in Echo Park today. And it wasn't as regimented as like most film sets where it's like, here's your days in, here's your days out, here's our wrap date, here's this, we have all these extras. Like, it was very much just like getting friends together to show up for each other. And
a little bit more piecemealed, and
absolutely.
No, for sure, been there. Yeah.
And it was so collaborative. We all felt so much power over it that it wasn't like them being like, hey guys, like, are you willing to do this? It would be like me or Ben. I mean, they would say that too, but me or Ben as often would be like, we want to do another take of this, or like, we want to get this shot, you know? So it was all of us feeling empowered to like make whatever we could and make it the best way we could. And I think that's how it happened.
For sure. No, it sounds about right. And I love that as well. I guess more of my, I wasn't really thinking, because I'm non-union. I work in non-union land still, which is fine. I'm just gonna say I've lived in LA for 3 years. I'm working my way up and all that kind of stuff. But I know for me, thinking like it's mostly like I want to sleep, like I want my downtime and my recovery thing. But like I also get the full passion. It's almost like you're running on adrenaline with just a group, and you just, which I totally get, and I would love to experience that. But I'm also stubborn about like, so it's a weird combo of.
It just depends.
Surviving.
Like, for us, it was running on adrenaline, and like, you know, we were sleeping enough like that. I didn't feel. I mean, I felt exhausted, and it was exhausting, but I didn't feel like sleep deprived. Like I wasn't. It wasn't like there were worse days on like morning show when we were shooting splits and overnights. And, you know, at the end of the day, like if you're shooting 7 days on something, like that's nothing, right? So it's like you cannot sleep for 7 days, but someone else is like, if I'm not sleeping for 7 days, I can't show up. My brain's not working. I'm not living, you know, fulfilling my potential as a director. So I think it really just depends on who you are and the circumstances. And I can go into the horrible you know, hours and work conditions for film crews, you know, these huge studios making millions of dollars off the backs of people who they're forcing to work 16-hour days at minimum wage. Like, that's evil. 5 friends in an Airbnb willing to shoot for 16 hours because they're having fun and fucking around. Like, that's a different, you know, situation.
100%. Yeah. Lovely. Yes. Okay. Great. You got me all stressed out.
Why are you stressed?
No.
I've gotten you stressed. I do not take responsibility for that, my dude.
No, it's a semi joke about I was talking about how I don't really edit the thing. So then I'm like thinking about how I'm not going to edit this and I'm stumbling and whatever. It's not your fault. Okay. It's not your fault. It's all right. So
take a deep breath. Let's do a deep meditative breath, okay? Breathe in for 4. Hold it for 4, and then breathe out for 6. Okay?
You want to do it?
Yeah. Let's do it. Okay, ready?
Wait, breathe in for
Hold it for 4. And then breathe out for 6 through your mouth. We've recentered ourselves.
Recentered. Great. All right. How was it? Because I don't feel like I know much about this aspect of it. So after reading, uh, getting accepted into South by
Mhm.
was a whole thing. Were you involved in any capacity on post stuff? Like,
No, I wasn't, and I didn't even really understand how intense that process was until I talked to Henry Levner, our director, about it, and Steven, and just like all of the QC stuff they had to do, and all of the deliverables, and it just
mm-hmm.
seemed like a really intense process. I was not involved in it at all. I didn't even know what festivals we submitted to. I got a FaceTime. It was either my birthday or the day before my birthday, and they were like, "We got into South by," and I was like, "Amazing!"
Mm-hmm.
That was my full contribution, was being excited when I got the FaceTime.
Okay, so when it did get it, because it went to multiple festivals.
Mhm.
South by was a premiere event,
Yes.
and then there was also uh, uh, it went to theaters as well.
Hmm.
For like a one day special.
A week.
Well, a 1 week. Okay,
Hmm.
great. How was it for you? Because the dream. Okay, let me recontextualize as well. Your dream. Can we come back to you and your dream?
Sure.
So, you were acting in this project. This was your first feature lead role. How was it for you having a project that you acted in, get the eyeballs on it, and you start seeing reviews about the performances and that sort of thing? What was that like?
It was amazing. I mean, it was a dream come true, and it was one of those moments that made me just believe in myself more, and I was like, oh my god, I acted in a movie. At the time it just felt like we were making something because we were bored in quarantine and maybe nobody would ever see it, but we still felt really creatively fulfilled by it, and that fulfillment was sort of the end goal.
Mm-hmm.
That sort of felt like, if this is all I get out of the project, I will be satisfied. So when it did get into South by, and when people were watching it, and when we were getting Ben Coleman and I were getting praised on our performances and our chemistry, and um how natural it felt and all that stuff, it felt really rewarding, and it just felt like icing on the cake. Um and the negative reviews also just felt like it didn't really, there were negative reviews too of the film, and
Mm.
those also didn't really feel like they mattered, because it felt like, yeah, but we made a fucking movie, like, and that was the end goal. Like, so it was a really interesting process, like just seeing it come out and seeing how I reacted to it, and but it was incredible and it felt good.
Mm-hmm. That's great.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I know I don't know what it's like to be on camera for that extended period of time and having that kind of review process go down on that more intimate side of the creation, because like you have a full filmmaking background.
Hmm.
So, and I know you've been in front of the camera before and you've been seen before in different ways.
Weirdly, it feels less intimate to me. If I
Oh.
had written and directed it, it would have been so much harder, I think, to accept a negative review. But just acting in it, it felt
Mhm.
this freedom of like, well, I just acted in it, and like I felt like I was good in it, and I know that I was good in it, and like there's of course moments where I'm like, I should have done this, or that moment isn't, that's a bad moment, or this isn't, I don't like that take. But ultimately, I also had enough compassion for myself where I was like, I am not a trained actor. I hadn't acted in years. I was showing up and doing my best, and I felt like that's what I did. I did the best I could do. I'm not claiming to be Meryl Streep. I'm just a girl who used to be in BuzzFeed videos, and now,
Yeah.
I'm trying to act in a feature, and so it felt, sorry, almost less pressure to me than
Mhm.
I think had I had a different role in the film. So it is really vulnerable, though. I was shocked at how vulnerable acting is, especially acting in a feature when you're in so many scenes and you have to be so present and you have to give so much of yourself. It was an extremely vulnerable experience. But it was also very freeing.
Yeah.
And seeing the movie come out was also very freeing. And it really made me take acting more seriously. Like, I signed up for an acting class and I was like, okay, I'm going to get an acting manager and I'm going to try to consider this in a way where before it was just something I stumbled into. And now it's something that I discovered I have a lot of joy doing. And it's a very incredible creative opportunity, I think.
Yeah, no, that sounds about right. No, that makes sense. That tracks for sure. Like thinking about the directing and the producing and the whole when the project comes out, you as the actor can say, well, the premise wasn't my idea. This
Yeah,
like
right?
I didn't choose the pacing of the edit. I didn't score this thing. I didn't and like you yeah.
100%. Like, there's just less ownership over it.
Mhm.
It's just like I showed up and I did improvise. I did write some of the dialogue, but like ultimately it's not
It was in
my
service, yeah.
baby. And when I've written and directed things that I've released, I have had full on panic attacks, because it's part of you, and it feels like it's part of you in that moment. And so sharing it with the world is a very special type of vulnerability. And it's important and it's very rewarding, but it is different than acting in somebody else's creation.
Yeah. Yes, it's scary putting stuff out there. I hate it. No, but no.
It's where a lot of people stop. It's where people get stuck. That's
Mhm.
why a lot of people never make it.
Well, because I like what you said about the acting. Well, you kind of the way that you had treated this project specifically was it was fulfilling just to make the thing. The process of making it was already a win. So anything beyond it, whether it got even out of post, whatever the thing was, like that's all. You called it. What'd you say? Frosting? I was
Icing
thinking
on the cake.
icing. I was thinking gravy for some reason.
Gravy on the mashed potatoes.
Yeah.
Same
So
thing.
so it's gravy. It's additional bonus points
Yes.
potentially.
And how rare is that, right? Like, so often the process is horrible and the process you dread, and not showing up to set, but like the pre-production and like like you're like, oh my God, like this, once you're in a place where you're like, this isn't going to be worth it unless this is a success, that you've sort of lost. Like I just feel like if it doesn't have that energy in it, that excitement, it's maybe it does come out on the other side being some masterpiece. I just got that book about how Mad Max Fury Road was created, because apparently it's like such an insane story, and maybe that's an example. But for the most part, I feel like the projects that I'm in where the experience is not enjoyable, not the final creative destination, like the final where I'm not able to fully enjoy the process, then the final product is always harmed. And if you are just able to look at it like, how great, I get 2 weeks to show up on set and do whatever I can, and like this is the goal, I do think it also is very good for your mental health, because you can't just be living waiting for people to approve of the final product.
Yeah. Great. I was going to say advice. I don't know if that was advice, but that was great. Yeah.
It's just like the way that I try to think of my work, I think, because this industry is so based on external validation, and you're always waiting for someone's approval, and you're always waiting for someone to give you a yes. And, so I think trying to focus as much as you can on the actual process and not the outcome is so key to avoiding massive depression and anxiety.
We don't want that. Great. So you mentioned this.
Depression and anxiety. Tell me more.
You mentioned depression and anxiety. Let's talk about okay. What I was gonna say is you talked about how this project kind of gave new confidence in the pursuit of the acting, solely acting. I don't believe had you pursued acting solely to act before, right? You haven't. So I saw. Is this still the case? I know I went through your Instagram.
Mhm.
I didn't go too far. I saw you had a post that said, I think there was a trend going around where people were posting old headshots, and you had like a piece of paper and it says, "I don't have a headshot on it." So do you still not have a headshot?
This is a great question. Yes, I did post that. I remember, and I have a headshot now.
Congratulations.
Thank you. I didn't take it for acting. I took it
Oh, doesn't count then.
because a friend of mine, Katie McCurdy, is a genius photographer, and she is like family. She's my brother's partner, and she took my picture because I was like, I need new pictures for like South by was coming up, and
Hmm.
just to use for myself for interviews or for. So I posted, I posted on my Instagram, and I've been using that as my headshot, but it's not an actual proper
Hmm.
acting headshot. So I
Hmm.
do need to probably get a headshot done again
Okay.
or for the first time.
Yeah, because I was curious on going back to your start into the creative film industry and all that kind of stuff. Was it in the back of your mind that you're hoping you're gonna find your way to acting at some point? Is that something you've been looking for, or yeah.
I think yes. Like I loved acting when I was younger. I did musical theater camp. I did a play in college. I did UCB after college, and so I was performing improv. And I was acting in sketch videos that I was just making on my own. And then I went to BuzzFeed and I was acting in those too. So I always loved acting. I felt confident acting. I had fun acting and performing in general. And whether it was doing sketch or improv or stand up or like whatever I was doing at the moment. Um, but writing and producing always just was what was getting me there. I was writing sketches with
Hmm.
friends, and so we were acting in them, and I was producing, and I knew how to direct, and I knew how to edit, so I could shoot something and release it. And it was those tools that really made acting possible. And of course, everything learning at UCB and having a community and a stage to perform on, and all of that as well. But so it always felt like something that I would do in some capacity or
Hmm.
wanted to end up performing in some capacity. Once I got staffed on morning show and it was such a huge commitment, I sort of just thought acting would be over and I would be a TV writer forever. And The End of Us was such a nice re-spark of this
Hmm.
love and joy that I have for performing. And of course, now that I do have writing and producing and directing tools, it does set me up even better where it's like, okay, great. Now I want to like write something for myself and, to act in, and I can try to either pitch that to networks or shoot something on my own. And so, I'm not yet in the process of shooting something on my own, but I do feel like that would be
Hmm.
the eventual goal, is to continue performing in some way, but it's never going to be the main pursuit or the only thing I'm pursuing.
Right. Yeah, that makes sense. So in the very beginning, when you talk about doing the UCB classes and writing and producing the to kind of put you and your friends in a position to be creating stuff, was that out of necessity for you to be in front of the camera, or like was there other people around that also wanted to be producer directors, or was like no, like was it a landscape where nobody was stepping up to be the one that was going to make something happen, so you raised your hand and you're like, I'll put this together for us? Or how did that come to, I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, the first thing I ever made that I remember releasing, because I'd made some stuff that I didn't release, but was I was in a sketch class with my friend Paul Gale, and he was like had this idea. He was like, "Oh, it was like when him or her, the Spike Jonze film Her came out," and he was like, just like reference to me like it like, oh, like Spike, like her, except it's Seth Rogen's voice, and like he just had that idea, and I was like, oh, let's do it, let's film it, because I like had studied film in school production. I knew how to produce and direct and edit, and um And so we were like, okay, and he had a camera. So we were like, let's just do it. So we like stole some shots in some diners in New York City, and we filmed some stuff in my brother's apartment, and I acted in it because it was our idea and we had no money. And I'm still watching that video and I'm like, God, I was so bad at acting. It was the first thing I ever did. And I was so scared to be in front of a camera. I was like, now I'm performing. But, and so we just did it because we were like, let's try it. And then it got like hundreds of thousands of views overnight. It was written about in like Gawker and like Huffington Post. And that was the moment where I was like, oh my God, like we just did this. We literally spent no money on it. We did it in like a week and it's like blowing up. And that was sort of what gave me the idea that I could really do this and I could try. And then I formed a sketch group with some friends at UCB and we together all made videos. So one person would direct, one person would edit, one person would, we would all act in them. And then we released some of those and one of those like got a lot of views on Funny or Die. And that sort of helped keep propelling. And then I made X's and that was because I just wrote it and I wanted to make it. And so it was never out of necessity. It was out of desire. And I asked my friend TJ Misney to direct it, who's a genius, and he did. And I produced it and acted in it. And that got a Vimeo staff pick. And that also got hundreds of thousands of views. And that was the real thing I made that sort of started my career.
Okay, was that piece?
I'm realizing the question was this out of necessity or desire, or
no,
why did you do it?
No,
so I'm just...
No, you answered it, I
Okay.
believe. Yeah, because I guess I forget the film school element too, because I think about the poli-sci background.
Well, I didn't go to film school. I just learned...
You had a film minor, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I guess that's what I mean. Yeah.
I did learn how to do some basic stuff in school.
Right,
You know, I
right.
certainly didn't go to film school, but I knew how to hold a camera. I knew how to, you know, do the basic, not break the line and do the right eye, you know, and
Process 101, yeah.
Yeah, and I knew how to edit. So I knew those basic skills that could get me, that basically I knew exactly enough to make something like, that's it.
Coherent.
Like I couldn't have done like, I probably wasn't in a position. I mean, I don't know. I don't know though. I actually think maybe I could have done like, if I'd thought to submit things to festivals, I think I probably could have done that. It's just that I didn't think to do it. The internet was like, I was intimidated by it too. And the internet was sort of just like
Yeah, you were killing it on the internet, it sounds like.
Free,
so, yeah,
like,
no, for
just
sure.
throw it up there and find out if you're good or not. Because I didn't know if I was good. And I think if you go to film school, you like have this inherent confidence of like knowing you're good. And I sort of had to find out by putting stuff out there. It was sort of like just needed that approval or like needed to know that I had a chance because I didn't come from a world or a background in which I ever thought I would have a chance in entertainment.
Yeah, I kind of like that approach more so. That sounds nicer. Well, yeah, because I mean, getting air quotes approval from by the views coming in and people loving the thing, and it's a wider scope of eyeballs on it versus like a film festival acceptance is like 6 people watched it and they gave a thumbs up versus 100,000 people. I mean, it's kind of cool. That's all. That's yeah.
No, thank you. I mean, it's interesting because there was definitely a time where I was like, oh, I'm not like getting the street cred I need. I'm not getting the South by and the Sundance and I'm not getting the right people to approve of this to get me the jobs that I'm going to need. But there's so many different paths and so many different ways to get to where you want to go. And I think the internet is a really cool, democratized place, or at least it used to be, and for filmmakers. I don't know if that exists anymore. I mean, it does if you're like a TikTok or person or a comedian, but I do think for filmmakers it's not what it used to be.
Yeah. I'm having flashbacks to the similarities in my start with like, because you were in New York, I was in Reno. I didn't study film in any capacity in college, but like I did a similar thing with the community where we did like little improv days and we made short films and we did a lot of that stuff and we put them up on on YouTube and stuff. And I'm thinking about like, I was happy if like, oh, we got 100 views on this one. Somebody watched it. So I'm like, ooh, 100,000 sounds kind of scary too. I'm like, oh my gosh, I don't. This is feels a little bit more real.
Yes.
That's
It's
yeah.
scary. I mean, even reading the comments and people judging the way I looked or my acting or saying this isn't funny or, there were terrifying moments of just reading comments. But when we made that Her video, like Seth Rogen, no, Judd Apatow followed me on Twitter and he reached out to me and he was like, such funny work, like
Mm,
great job. And a couple other people reached out to me. So that was more validating than the people who said I was stupid or my acting was bad or it wasn't funny or whatever. I was like, yeah, it was a way to learn that you're never going to make something that everybody likes.
yeah.
So you just have to keep going. And
Yeah.
but I have made things that have like 50 million views on YouTube, and those are really terrifying, and very vulnerable and scary. But you have to get over it. I'm still working on getting over it.
Hmm.
There's something inherent in artists where we don't want to be seen. Like we want to make our work and then we want no one to watch it. And it's hard to get over that.
Yeah. So is the for as advice for those that are getting 50 million views on YouTube or hundreds of thousands of views, what's the for how what is there like a what not to do thing? 'Cause I know is it just like do you just is it best to avoid even just because you don't have to we don't have to look and read reviews when the South by people read our stuff, or we don't have to go on YouTube and scroll through comments endlessly. Or maybe it's best to sprinkle. I don't know. It's how to.
I mean, I don't know either, right?
Hmm.
Like I think it's better not to read reviews probably. But I think it's really hard and I think chances are you're going to read them. I think it's better not to read comments, but in reality, I think you probably are going to read them
Hmm.
if you have them. So, I think just it's the process of learning that it's okay if not everybody likes you or approves of you. It's okay um if somebody hates a thing you made. It's not
It's just
ideal,
opinion. It's
but it's
opinion,
yeah,
right?
I think is the constant process of valuing your own opinion and trusting yourself. And I don't know. I mean, if you have it within you to not engage, then by all means do not engage. You'll be happier for it.
Noted.
But I will say I've also made things like when I saw him again, I made this short film and it's more serious, it's not a comedy. And so many of the comments were people reaching out to me saying things like, thank you for making this. I've never seen myself in a video like so well represented, or I went through the same thing that this character went through
Mm,
and this made me feel less alone. So like all of those comments are so rewarding, and anytime that you can engage in like a review or reading comments or getting an email with someone who has seen your work and has been moved by it, I think that for me has always made any other negative comments seem so much less important. And so I do think comments do have value, and I think being able to engage in an audience directly has value, and that's part of why the internet, putting work on the internet, is special. Like even if it's Vimeo and other filmmakers reaching out to you or whatever it is. So
yeah. I know it means a lot to the pursuit of living as a human in this world is normally our the objective is to either kind of be seen or be heard, and that sort of core human value. So in the internet age, with reaching out to somebody that made a video that makes you feel seen,
mhm.
it is an additional, again, bonus points opportunity to, like, if you did respond to them, that's another, like, felt seen again,
Absolutely.
which I know from my experience, 'cause I don't do the reaching out to creatives too often. I mean, we're doing it right now,
Yeah.
but um I know on occasion I don't use Twitter much at all.
Mhm.
But sometimes I'll watch a movie and I'll be like, oh, I want to really tweet at the writer because I cried at the end and I really felt that movie. So I'll send a tweet, and then when they leave a little heart on it, I'm like, oh my gosh, they saw my tweet.
Totally,
So that
absolutely.
it always feels good. And I hope that on the other end
Yeah.
that they were like, oh,
Absolutely, yeah, and I always try to respond whenever someone reaches out because of something I've made,
hmm,
and have had some really meaningful interactions with people through that.
love it. Love it. It's nice. Writing.
It's hard.
Okay, so let's
2 hours? 2 hours?
so let's connect the dots here. Let's connect the dots here.
I'm teasing him because he told me this is going to be 2 hours, and
And
I was struggling
we're
to
only
see how it's
we're only
possible.
5 minutes in
Oh,
so
no.
far, so
I clearly talk a lot, so it should
that's
be
great. That's great. So writing, okay, you mentioned that this one short film you made kind of you credited it to starting your career, I think is what you just said. Does that Are you talking about where did I guess how did you learn your writing, and how did you go from making these shorts and plopping them places to uh, being a staffed writer on a cool show? That's a big question. I don't know. Maybe I feel like yeah.
So, just the trajectory of my writing,
Yeah, essentially writer alley and how that
how that happened.
yeah,
Um,
because writing's hard.
Writing is hard. I mean, I always loved writing. I was writing screenplays when I was a teenager, and I was, in high school, very took all the English classes. I took 2 AP English classes, so I could not take math my senior year, which I desperately need because I'm so bad at math now. But so you're right that X's, that film, sort of, I do credit it as sort of kickstarting my career in a way, but I was writing before that. I was writing, trying to write web series, and I wrote, the hymn video and with Paul, and I wrote some other sketches, and I took sketch writing classes at UCB, and I was writing sketches and put on a sketch show actually at the People's Improv Theater, and so I was engaging in writing.
Right.
X's was the first thing I wrote that really garnered some acclaim. Like the Vimeo staff pick made me feel like I had the stamp of approval, not only from, the viral video community, but from like the filmmaking community. And I was like, okay, I want to take this more seriously. And from there, I was hired by Glamour magazine to write a web series for them, and by this other website at the time, Elite Daily, to write for them. And then BuzzFeed Video hired me, and I moved to LA. I was writing at the time actually as a journalist at BuzzFeed News, so I totally forgot that that's a completely other type of writing I was engaged in. I was a journalist.
A little bit different.
Yes, I was a journalist, and I went basically to quit my job as a reporter and to go and be a video producer, and they sent me to LA to work for the BuzzFeed Video team and sort of help build that up because it was early days. And at BuzzFeed Video, I was able to sort of write whatever I wanted, mostly sketch comedy videos. And then eventually, the longer I was there, the more I sort of started challenging that and writing more sort of dramatic short films and dramedy short films, and really pushing the boundaries, I think, of what a BuzzFeed video could look like.
And probably, I'm assuming, to mix it up for yourself too.
Yeah, because you just get bored making the same thing. It wasn't like I want to push BuzzFeed, into long form content because I care about this company diversifying their narrative video. It was like, I want to write this short film, and so I have the means to do it. I'm going to go do it, and I'm going to make it. And it was really, and one of those, when I saw him again, I made that with Stephen Cantor, who shot it, who made The End of Us, and it was really there that I got really into making, writing. I started writing pilots. I started thinking about writing as a really special tool, and the one that felt the most natural for me.
Yeah, and then through that too, like I know there are different ways to study the craft. I mean, because like you're doing the workshops, so I'm thinking about like what helped you develop as a writer as well. Like, were you taking workshops at that time? Were you reading scripts that you were seeing were like going up for the Oscar, and you just researched that, or maybe all of the above? Like, I don't. Yeah, how did...
This is such a good question because, I did study screenwriting in school and I had some basic knowledge of structure, but I'd never studied TV writing and TV structure. And I wish that I had these tools sooner because I was writing pilots, I was asking for notes, I was reading scripts, I was going to Barnes & Noble and buying screenplays. Like now I just Google and I can, and I was doing that at the time too, but I was reading scripts. It wasn't really until I read John Truby, The 22 Steps of Storytelling, Anatomy of Story.
Mm.
That book like really clicked everything into place for me. I highly recommend it in terms of story structure. And that is really a feature book, but it works for TV structure as well. And then when I was on Morning Show, and I can talk more about the journey to getting staffed, but
Yeah.
you know, just everything made so much sense to me in terms of like I'd never sat around a table thinking about story in this way and being able to build it with people, and it felt like, oh, this is where I'm supposed to be. Like this is like everything just made like clicked, and like it just felt so natural for me, and it was really nice. And I learned so much there about story structure and drive and how to build a fulfilling narrative. But it was, yeah, I think I would never took workshops. I took one pilot writing class that did not give me the tools I needed. But but now I'm actually about to start teaching at Script Anatomy, which is a great school in LA, and I've been shadowing their classes, and I'm like, oh my God, I wish I had this when I was starting out, because it makes it so, and I'm doing it with the pilot I'm developing now. I actually ended up going and putting in all the tools and doing the Script Anatomy tools, because it's like, so many people are brilliant writers, hilarious dialogue writers, have great ideas, but just are lacking the tools to make a really coherent story work, simply because they didn't have the resources to go to film school. They don't have the money to take a writing class. So I highly recommend John Truby's book, The Anatomy of Story, and then Robert McPhee's book. Is that his name? Robert McPhee? Yeah, right?
That sounds
Story?
good. Sounds right.
The name of the book is Story. I'm pretty sure it's Robert McPhee or McKee. Those are the two best books that I recommend. And if you can't afford to take a class, like I think Script Anatomy legit, I know I'm teaching there, but like seeing the tools that they give to their students and seeing the way it's helped these students and has helped me, I think they're great. And yeah, I wish that I had known those like sort of structure secrets sooner, because everything just clicks into place once you do.
It's Robert McKee. Yeah.
McKee.
Yeah.
Okay.
That was good.
Thank you, Richard.
Fact check. Okay. Okay. That's a lot. That's great. So, yes. Structure and learning by doing, learning by being certain. Yeah. Yeah. I know you're checking your hair.
Yeah, I literally didn't check my hair. I was like, this one bang is pissing me off. I was like, how's it going? Yeah, I mean, I learned by experience, but
100%. I think that's I think that's the best way to.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, it's all the above, I assume. It's you write just to get used to that process, whether you're doing it perfectly structurally right or whatever. You're experimenting with dialogue. You're trying to condense your act, whatever you're. And then the overall structure, the big picture aspect, and then you go and you take a workshop, and then you apply that, you get new lessons, then you come back and you write some more with those new lessons applied, and then you learn something new from a book. That whole back and forth, this is tennis. This is a...
Absolutely. I mean, I think the reason why I became such a better writer after getting staffed and after, just every year I think I'm a better writer, but the reason why I think it happened was not that I became a better, it's not that I all of a sudden
knew how to write,
had funnier dialogue, had smarter ideas, had better premises. It's simply that I understood how to properly build a story, and I just had the tools of understanding structure and understanding the ways in which to think about story that would, on a professional level, meet basic requirements and from an audience's perspective be satisfying narratively, and it's all just basic story structure stuff that no one told me.
Yeah, it's lovely. Okay, so we can rewind a little bit to all the writers out there watching, wondering about how do I get staffed on the morning show, Ali? What do I do? That's how they sound.
Yeah. Getting staffed is so hard. It's so hard these days, especially with the way that the assistant, so many shows don't get picked up for more seasons. And so assistants have such a harder time moving up the ladder. And with all of these, workshop, like the I was going to say
WGA,
WNBA.
WNBA. How do I join the WNBA,
WB,
Ali?
Writers Workshop, and CBS. Like, there's all of these, if you don't get
Right.
into one of those, it's really hard to get staff because all of the staff writers are pretty much funneled through those programs now to save the studios money. So, all that being said, my journey was that I had a background as a journalist. I worked as a journalist. I went to Columbia Journalism School. I did the Columbia Publishing course, and then I was a journalist at BuzzFeed News for 2 years. After BuzzFeed, I went to work at a Comedy Central show called The Opposition with Jordan Klepper, and I was a producer for that show, traveling the country, directing and producing the correspondent segments. So I had this very specific skill set that the morning show wanted. I had a background in journalism, and I also knew how to produce on set, and I knew how the grind of working in a daily show. It was not a daily morning show, it was a daily late night comedy show, but I understood that schedule, I understood the grind, I understood what it was like to go film a segment, and they wanted that for the character, for how to write the character and how to write the show. That coupled with the sample that I had that was about sexual assault and about and when I saw him again, the short film I made, that the content was similar. I even wrote a scene for morning show that was very similar to a scene I'd already written and shot and directed, and in When I Saw Him Again. So I was sort of just this like perfect match for the show. They wanted someone who could write the show within the show content. So anytime they're telling the news on screen, they wanted someone who could write that news, and we actually needed to go on set and produce those segments. So they wanted to have a writer, who ended up being me, who could go produce those on set. So it was
It's very specific, yeah.
Yes. They wanted someone who had a production background, who could produce these segments, who could write the news, and who could also write in the room and write episodes and contribute to the story and be a regular writer. So I actually skipped staff writer so I could take on this role of like being a writer with these additional responsibilities. So when people ask me how to get staffed, I'm like, I don't know. I would not have gotten staffed if I wasn't the perfect person for this very weirdly specific job. And,
Yeah.
it was hard to find someone else who had this exact background. So it was pretty much like, are they going to hire me, or are they going to hire nobody and try to do this another way and produce this another way? That being said, my advice is stop pursuing your dreams at all costs and go get a hobby. Go get something you're good at that's not writing. If I had not had this specific background and skill set, it would have been a lot harder to break in. And I think you need to know what you're good at. You need to know what your skills are. Someone else in the room was an NBC page, and she worked at the Olympics. So that was a really easy hire for them too. The Olympics are a huge part of what these morning shows cover. And so they wanted someone who'd worked at NBC, who knew that background. And the more you can make yourself specific, the more you can pull something from your background, pull, something that's uniquely yours. I think
Just
the
life
easier it will
experience.
be to life experience. And, not that journalism is uniquely mine. There's probably tons of other writers who are journalists, but the more you can do to differentiate yourself and to build a niche for yourself, I think the better.
Yeah, being more than just one thing, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. What about the aspect of how did you find out about the position in the first place? Were
The
you
morning show?
Yeah, were you trying to land on I'm assuming you were pursuing TV writing at that point, so you were keeping an eye out for opportunity, or were you
After I got the Comedy Central job, I got an agent, and I loved working as a field producer on The Opposition. I did become aware that this was not the end goal for me, and it was not fulfilling me in the way that I knew being on a narrative show would. That's really my favorite thing is working in narrative. So the dream was to staff on a TV show, and my agent submitted me for the show.
Love it. That makes sense. Agents. I forget those are a thing.
Well, I mean, it's tough if you don't have an agent. It's really, really hard. And honestly, a lot of people who do have agents, they don't do shit, and it's also really, really hard.
Yeah.
So you always have to be the one fighting hardest for yourself.
Yeah, it's always hard.
But it is easier if you have an agent. I mean, I can't
But it's
sit
yeah.
here and say that's not true.
Yeah. Love that. I'm looking at my notes.
Yeah, note away. I'll look at my phone too. No.
Okay. I know this was referenced and this is a writer aspect. Okay. In this is semi included in the pitch for the workshop, but it's more of a vague thing. I just wanted to ask about on opinion on.
Do you mean my yoga and writing retreat?
The yoga and writing retreat. I keep calling it a workshop.
No, workshop is fine because I will be doing writing workshops on it.
Okay.
I just wanted to make sure I knew what we were talking about.
Okay, so you talked about finding thy voice, finding your voice, and using your voice. I guess I wanted to expand on what that means. I guess from like the writer's perspective, potentially, on how. I mean, this is almost feels like a life journey thing too. As again speaking on the human experience, on finding like who you are and what you have to offer the world and that sort of thing.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's the niche of how that translates into a writer voice, and then even just knowing that, and then how to apply it seems like a whole other next step. But what does I feel like it's a dumb question, but in terms
It's
of
not a dumb question.
no, a dumb question. My question was going to be how. What do you think? What does finding your voice mean to you? Yeah, I don't know. I'm trying to talk about finding your voice.
What does finding your voice mean to me? I think ultimately it's so linked to judgment. We have so much fear of judgment for when we release something to the world, how it will be perceived. And so much of that fear prevents us from writing authentically. Even when you get to the professional level, it's what will sell. This won't sell. Nobody wants this. You know, you're always thinking about how the world will receive this thing. And then, so there's that judgment. Then there's your own judgment. You write on the page and you think, oh, this sucks. This is stupid. This isn't good enough. You're constantly judging your own work. And when you're early in the stages of writing, I think, and by that I mean when you're more of an aspiring up and coming writer, at least when I was one, I was constantly thinking about what's my voice? How do I find my voice? How do I differentiate myself? How do I know who I am? How do I know what an Ali Vingiano video is like? And I felt paralyzed. Felt like I couldn't make anything until I made that decision. And I think for some people that works, like Broad City, they were doing the Broad City web series and they were like, Alana Glazer, like, you know who Alana Glazer is and she's going to show up and she's going to be that. And like, she made that choice and she went for it. What I discovered was that the best way to find your voice is to release yourself of the judgment and to just write as much as you can and release as much as you can. And then look at everything you've done and say, what is the thread that connects these things? Like, okay, everything I write is going to have elements of humor in it, but it's also going to be poignant and it's going to be led by honest human emotions, and comedy is going to be second to that instead of writing comedy first. And that's something that I do. And that doesn't mean it's right, but that's something that's unique to my voice. And so I think that releasing ourselves from judgment, creating, and then going back and looking at it, and even just making a list of what are 10 things that this piece of writing has in it. And how can I pull these out? And which one of these do I like the most? And I think really writing from that place, and clearly in my writing and yoga retreats, judgment is something I really focus on because I do think it really inhibits us from writing authentically and releasing our work, which is the first step that everybody has to take. So that's a little bit about what finding your voice means to me. And I think it also is an ongoing process that you can constantly be redefining yourself and not limiting yourself based on that idea.
An evolution, yeah. Okay. That sounds nicely put. That was great.
Thanks.
Yeah.
I think it's just there's so much pressure to find your voice. And so I think that's why it's something I'm interested in exploring with people. And for some people, they do have a really distinct voice, and for other people, they're not really sure what it is. And I also suggest like improv. Like improv was so helpful for me because you just have to say whatever you think is funny. Like, you know, you don't have time to think about it. So you slowly get to figure out, oh, these are the things that I think are funny. These are the ways that I respond to things. Like, and anything you can do like that's really helpful.
Yeah, improv is scary for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Ooh. Okay. I had a great thought in there somewhere. Okay, no, yeah, I remember. Not that this is it's a great thought. All right. So, I like it makes perfect sense that you would be leading such a exercise. Uh, being that you do have the background of directing and producing, I feel like it's very in line with that position because that's kind of the job of like a writer, director, producer is you, and especially in like the early stages of new artists and stuff, like you're putting people in a position to be themselves and to pull out the best of them and like make them comfortable with who they are, and then um, putting that on screen or whatever. So it's the same exact thing of just offering that confidence to helping a writer do it. Yeah, that sounds
Absolutely.
lovely. Yeah, because it is hard to. No, I know I know 2020 was a big year, and it's 2021. I mean, I'm sure it's continued. A lot of people are it's that rediscovery phase of
Mm-hmm.
everybody had that time to themselves, and it's like, who am I
I've
and what do I
changed so
want?
much. I feel like I'm a different
Mm.
person than I was 2 years ago. Like, I think probably a lot of people feel that way. You have to sort of rediscover the things that are interesting to you now.
No pressure.
No pressure.
No pressure. Okay. I want to ask a couple things. All right. Since we brought up the retreat, this feels kind of simple, but I'm just curious on the it's the whole sell of the retreat, but it's the combo of it's kind of like three elements. It's the writing workshops led by you, and then you brought the awesome yoga instructor out to so it's kind of like a back and forth combo of yoga and writing, and then also pulling people out of their normal setting into a new setting. So, why? How did that come about?
Yeah.
How and why?
So it came about because I did a yoga teacher training in 2019. I've always been sort of obsessed with traveling. I got really lucky and was able to travel when I was a teenager alone, and leaving the country and exploring the world and being in a different setting. And it was such an eye-opening experience for me, as it is for many people. And just having that adventure and having that, being pushed out of my comfort zone in that way sort of made me addicted to traveling. And I hadn't left the country in 10 years. And then after morning show season 1 ended, I was like, I'm going to give myself
Mm.
this gift. And I went to Bali, like most white girl shit. I went to Bali alone for a month to do yoga. And I also went to Hong Kong, which is incredible. And it was like right when the riots and protests in Hong Kong
Mm.
were starting. And it was a pretty stunning time to be there. But I learned so much. I was like, if I'm going to be here, I'm going to like learn some shit and not just be sitting here watching these
It's
protests. But
almost journalistic.
it honestly, it did feel that way. Because I went to some of the protests and I was like filming them, and I was like, this reminded me of when I was working at BuzzFeed, and I went to a protest once on Staten Island, and I was like interviewing people with my phone, and I felt very, very similar, reminiscent of it. And so, okay, so I went to Bali, did yoga for a month, just like what it did for my soul was astonishing. I came back and I was like, I can't do what I always do, which is, let this go away. I need to put this into my life and put this into my creative life. And so I signed up for yoga teacher training, and for 6 months I did 200 hours of yoga teacher training and learned so much. And through that, and as my final project, I developed this idea for writing and yoga retreats. And there was actually a writing and yoga retreat that I really wanted to go on, and I wasn't able to go on it. But I was like, I want to create that. Like, I wanted to go in part because I was like, the two things I love the most. Perfect. And then through my yoga teacher training, it became clear that this was really how I wanted to use my teacher training. I didn't want to be teaching every morning in a studio, but I did want to use what I learned and incorporate the things I love, which are traveling and yoga and writing. And I think being in a new space does just spark your inspiration so much. Being around supportive people, like being able to drop your routine and like even I went to Costa Rica in August and I with the intention of writing. I did not end up writing, but I ended up for 2 weeks like cleansing my soul, doing a shit ton of yoga, surfing, like unleashing so much of my stress and anxiety and fear, and I came back and I wrote a feature. Like, like sometimes you just need that break, and sometimes you just need I forget what your question was though. Why yoga and
why and how? But yeah, you're kind of
why now? Now is because I couldn't do it after for COVID.
No, I was saying why and how. But
why and how?
But yeah, not the now. No.
Well, yoga is yoga is such a gift for creatives if you're able to practice. And by yoga I don't mean going to a yoga class. It could be meditating, it could be breath work, it could be just sitting here and taking a breath like we did. Like yoga incorporates all of that, and I think there's this sense of it in LA in particular is this very like, oh, like yoga, like like
more trendy
very,
than actually
very trendy. Like there's a whiteness subscribed to it that's like totally not only problematic because it's an Eastern practice, but like it just like it's very like gross, the way that I think a lot of people think of yoga in LA. In reality, yoga is something that is so powerful for people who've experienced trauma, who have disassociated from their body, who need to drop back down into their body, who and so many of us are living in trauma in ways that we don't even realize, and yoga is so powerful in terms of confronting that, and that's a huge part of what got me into it. And then I did a trauma-informed practice, and I think that it is like, if you are able to practice and if you are a creative person, it can do so much to allow you to be present in yourself, to break free of all of the fear and the doubt and the external constant stimulations of our world that are preventing us from believing in ourselves and living up to our full potential. So we talked earlier about how hard it is to release your work. So many people have great ideas and then just sit on them and never make them. And I think that practices that you can do to recenter yourself and to build some confidence and self-esteem and belief in yourself are so crucial in this day and age to the creative process.
I love it. I'm assuming. Okay, yeah. I'm assuming through the retreat, like people will come back with the idea. I don't know. I'm assuming that there's a lot of stuff to pick up to take forward with you to help through these. So it's not just
totally.
Yeah, that's the whole deal. It's not
And it sounds like intense the way I'm talking about it, or I'm like, yoga's so crucial to creativity, and it's like it's not even like an intensity. It's just like it's nice. Like it's nice to go relax somewhere, and it's nice to go write in a different location. Like, there's people going on the retreats who are my peers who I have nothing to teach them. They're staffed TV writers, but they want to go just to work on their pilot. And like then I have 2 other students actually who are very, aspiring writers, and they do want to do the workshops, and I'm going to give them notes on their work and work through that with them. But beyond that, just tools that they can continue working with, both in terms of like story structure tools, but also just things that they'll learn from meditation and yoga and practices to hopefully they can carry with them forever.
Yeah. It's lovely. I don't think you sounded like the military.
Okay, I was like, I'm taking a lot of intensity to this.
It sounded chill to me.
Cool.
But now I'm scared. No, I'm just kidding. Okay, love.
I love your Linkin Park. What is this, Linkin Park?
It's bottom
vinyl?
right. Yeah, my vinyl. It's Hybrid Theory.
Hell yeah.
My favorite band of all time.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep, grew up with Linkin Park. Got into them in high school. No, I guess just since you brought it up, I don't talk about them often enough. The thing I like most about them is they were a band of most people think of them for this album for Hybrid Theory. You think about like In the End, you think
Oh,
about
that's the song.
Crawling.
Yep.
You know, those are the big ones off this track, and then off of their follow up Meteora, you hear about Numb. But they have like 7 albums before Chester passed away. But
Oh.
yeah, he committed suicide.
Oh, right. And isn't he the one who like was always singing about how he was really depressed and like no one really paid
Yeah.
attention to him?
Well, Mike Shinoda here, he's the main writer. He
Got it.
writes the lyrics, but he's the performer. So of course he still has to channel all of that, and
Right.
he does it authentically because experiences. But regardless,
Don't want to damage your Linkin Park.
I loved their evolution of you know, their, like you were saying, like, you know, you get tired of making the same thing over and over again. So Linkin Park, everybody, go listen to Linkin Park. um, okay. Let's see what else we got. We only got 3 more out. All right. Okay. Yes, you brought this. Okay. Jeez. Figure your thoughts out, Eddie.
Yeah, we only got 10 more minutes.
Jeez. um. You mentioned travel.
Mm-hmm.
This is I am not a person who respects the I want to travel more,
Mm-hmm.
but that's a newer thought that I've had. Like I'm not really sure I saw the benefit of travel as much. Like I had been to like Indonesia once before.
Mm-hmm.
I spent a month there previously, and I went to like Mexico once for like a week or something. But and like around the country a
What
bit.
brought you to Indonesia?
I was dating a girl in college, and she was Indonesian. Her family was so she was going back for like a month in the summer, and I'm like, oh, I'd love to go. That'd be awesome.
Yeah.
So I had built in home, and we went all over to like Jakarta and Bali and
Awesome.
all that cool stuff. So that was lovely. Um, but I'm usually the type of person who needs somebody to pull me somewhere
Mm-hmm.
because of their excitement of being there, and like even for the retreats, like you love the place and the things we're doing is stuff that you love, which excites me. I'm like, oh my gosh, I want to experience that.
Yeah.
But prior to that, I'm like, I don't have any ambitions to go to Costa Rica. But now I'm like, oh, that sounds like I want to go to Costa Rica for sure. So I'm very influenced on the travel aspect. Like if
Mm.
I'm there with somebody
Yeah.
who's gonna love it, then I lean on that. But I do want to, because you've traveled alone,
Mm-hmm.
which is awesome. And I know like one place on my bucket list this year is I've never been to New York City.
Awesome.
I've rekindled relationships within my family because I grew up away from family, kind of.
Mm.
My parents, we moved away from the bulk of my. So
Wow.
either way, I have a cousin in New York, and I want to go. Pointing. So either way, what I was gonna ask is, this is another. I just need a little bit of reaffirming. I'm gonna ask this from you for some reason because I feel like you might be able to give me some good words. What is the I don't want to ask it in this way, but like not the best way of travel, but what are the
Mm-hmm.
best things to pull away from a travel experience, or how do you do it with if I'm gonna go somewhere, how much time do I go? Do I plan? Do I not plan? Do I outline a thing and wing it? Like I don't know.
I would say outline a thing and wing it.
Mm-hmm.
Like I think if there's like a few things that you're like I'm going to New York City, I want to go to the Statue of Liberty, I want to go eat pizza at Joe's, or like whatever it is, like pick your 5 must do things and
Mm-hmm.
then just wing it. And I think the best part of traveling alone, at least when I started doing it from a young age, it was the idea that I could do whatever I wanted and that I was the person to make the choices for
Mm-hmm.
myself, which was not always the experiences that I had.
Mm.
So the fact that I could wake up and think, what do I want to do? Not like, well, I guess I'll do that because my friends want to do it, or like, well, I have to do that, um, and just listening to yourself and listening to your body and trusting yourself. And I think you gain a lot of confidence traveling alone because you're like, oh shit, I can do this. I can get off an airplane in the middle of, wherever you are and get myself to a hotel and go get dinner, and like just the basic things that maybe you're afraid to do before you leave.
Mm-hmm.
Um, So yeah, I think it depends on where you're going, but every time I've tried to plan something too much, you just have too many expectations for
Hmm.
what should happen, and then if things don't go to plan, it's disappointing, and then you just have to you know like every it's Murphy's law, which I believe in on film sets, and I believe it with traveling, which is that anything that can go wrong will go wrong, or everything that can go wrong will go wrong. So just like you have to just take it with a grain of salt and be a
Yeah.
little laid back and allow your schedule to be a little open, I think.
Sounds chill. Sounds great. I'll report back. Where are you looking to what? Do you want to go next? You've traveled. You've been around the world a bit. What's what's your next top destination?
Yeah, well, it's more like repeats actually right now. I'm
Oh,
going to go back to Costa Rica to do the retreat, which I can't wait. And there's still spots available. I think there's four. And then I'm trying to go to Italy to do another retreat in September. And then in December, I would like to try to plan a trip to Ghana.
a similar style retreat before we. Is that the idea, or
Italy is a similar style retreat, except it's more, Costa Rica is more adventuring. We're going to go surfing. We're going to go zip lining. It's in the jungle and
right
it's a little more adventurous. And Italy is going to be
food?
food related. So we're going to be on an organic farm.
Oh,
We're going to go to a vineyard and spend a day drinking wine and, wine tasting. And it's going to be in Tuscany and it's just going to be relaxing, going to the pool, drinking wine, eating pasta, going to town, and a different vibe.
yeah, sounds great.
Yeah.
Okay, so yeah, repeat. Sorry, I cut you off. You said Ghana.
Yeah, I mean, we'll see. But I have,
We'll
yeah,
see.
we'll see. We'll see. But I'm trying to plan a trip for December, and yeah,
You've never been to Ghana
I
before.
have been to Ghana.
Okay.
I was the first place I ever left the country. Actually, was Ghana, and I was 16, and I stayed. I've talked about it actually on a couple podcasts recently. I was doing a podcast, and they were like, "So when you were in Ghana," and I was like, "What? Like, how do you know I went to Ghana?" I guess I wrote about it once, but yeah, and I don't really totally believe in these programs anymore, where you like send kids to do community service around the world. Although, like, I've looked into Habitat for Humanity and some of these programs, but a lot of them are just like weird, not like full on colonial like imperialism, but like a little bit like, do these places actually need these resources, or are you doing this for
Right.
the kids who are on the program? And I think you do have to do a little bit of a deciphering of which programs are actually good for the community and which are not. And I do think that the one I did veered on the side of good for the community, but still I have problems with it. And now as an adult, but one of the things that I am grateful for is that we stayed with families in this town, Bremen town near Cape Coast, Ghana. And I'm still in touch with my family. And I just I talked to my brother on WhatsApp and my homestay sister. And so I've been talking to them and I'm trying to plan a trip back to visit them and their family, who I haven't seen in 16 years. And, we've just stayed in contact with on Facebook and Instagram and all of
Hmm.
that and WhatsApp. And I think it would be really, really special to go back and sort of process that experience as an adult and also
Yeah.
get to meet these people who, I've only really known. I know through my memories and I know through talking, saying happy birthday online, but I would love to get to know them as an adult. So all of my trips this year that I'm hoping to take are places I've already been, but I think there's something really special
Yeah.
about that too.
Well, yeah. Well, you said it already at some point here that you are a whole different person than you were even just 2 years ago. So, if it's been 10 plus years since you've been to a spot, like that's a big change.
Yeah. Wait, I think I said 16 years.
Yeah.
Yeah, is that right?
Did you say 16? I don't know. I mean, you
Oh
said
yeah,
16.
you're right.
So
I think it has been 16 years.
I just said 10 plus to be safe.
Yeah, yeah.
Um,
No, but I was like 16 can't be right, and then I just did horrible math. I think it is.
oh,
right.
that's right. You skipped me.
Maybe 15. I don't know.
The rule of thumb I heard is don't do math live. Is
Smart man.
That's just so once you think about mathing, you just stop.
Okay.
But 16 sounds good. Either way, that's a long time, and I know I've even just growing up because like I said, like I grew up in New Mexico and I visited a couple times, like scattered here and every 5 years or so, and every time is so different.
Mm-hmm.
So It's always an experience, which I hope you got to do all this stuff. Italy is this year too. All right, nice. Dang, very
I mean,
cool.
it all depends, right, on like if I'm
On the
staffed
world.
then, and and the world, absolutely. I mean, if we're at war, but
We'll get there.
hopefully we won't ever.
No, not to war.
Oh, okay. But yes, hopefully, yeah. Schedule permitting, those would be the
Okay.
trips that I would
It's a
take.
great segue for my next question. Morning show is done, right? It's not. No,
Morning show's not done. They renewed it for season 3.
but you are not coming back.
But they are sweeping house. So they got a new showrunner. Basically, what happens is once in a while, shows decide that they need to take the whole thing in a new direction.
Okay.
Well, actually, I think that's not exactly what happened. I think it was our showrunner's choice. But actually, nothing I'm saying is true. Or, I mean, nothing I'm saying should... I don't know what's public knowledge.
There's
so
nothing
I'm like,
official.
Nothing official. But the moral of the story is that they're sweeping house. So everyone is gone from morning show who worked on the first 2 seasons, and they're bringing in a whole new team. And I'm excited to see what they do with it, to be honest. And I'm excited to start working on new things. And I think it's like I learned so much from it, and now I get to move on.
100%. I mean, that sounds great. Two full seasons, and then it seems like you got plenty going on anyway. You got plenty of plans up in the air, regardless. So, okay. So yeah, you're moving forward from your experience at the morning show. Yeah, I guess I was gonna ask what's next, but you kind of know. Yeah, so there's no official landing place currently, and you're kind of you're kind of up in the air currently. You're gun for hire, if you will. Or...
Yeah, I'm starting to submit for staffing, and
Nice.
I have a feature actually that I'm working on making my first feature as writer director. I have a production company I'm working with, and we're taking it out to try to get financing now. So we'll see.
Can we talk about that at all, or
I think we can talk about it a little bit,
Okay.
not in detail, but.
What do you want to talk about?
I mean, I will say I can talk a little bit about the process of trying to make an indie film.
Sure.
I made this one, so Run and Gun, The End of Us, with no money, and now I'm trying to make one properly with a proper budget, with indie financiers, and it's a totally different process.
Is this the feature you referenced earlier where you went and you cleansed your soul in Costa Rica and then you came home?
Cleansed your soul. That's such a cringy way to say it, isn't it? What I mean by that is just that we get really caught up in our lives, and sometimes you need to be reminded of what's actually important in the world, and it feels like a bath for your soul.
Yeah, we know what you meant. I'm just teasing the... I think cleansing
no, that
soul...
was a different feature.
Okay, so you came
back... I wrote this one
right.
3 years ago, and I've been trying to make it for probably 2 years. So it's the longest... Trying to make an indie feature has been one of the hardest things in my career.
Okay. That kind of tracks. Because I'm trying to remember when we first met.
Mm-hmm. It was probably because I was trying to make this movie.
Yeah, because I remember, you were talking about... I don't know.
Well, we first met because I was doing the director's close-up because I was like, oh my God, I'm going to direct a movie this year and I need to learn, and I've done it ever since. And then we were about to take the film out to get financing, and COVID happened, and my agent was like, do not take this film out now. Nobody will buy it. We ended up still soft pitching it to some places, and they were like, yeah, no, we're not making a $3 million drama. Like, we have to make huge budget things or whatever. I don't know. The budget of mine is not set in $3 million. I just mean, like, we're not going to make a small drama. We're going to make a big Liam Neeson movie, like, because that's the only thing we can rely on in this marketplace. So basically I had to put that on hold for a whole year. 2021, we cast the film with the 2 female leads, and got a production company attached. Before, actually, we first got a production company attached, then they paid for a casting director, then we cast it, and now we're taking it out to financiers. So it's been years of my life, and I wrote this script so long ago that I actually now feel so detached from it. It benefits me as a director because I feel less connected to the writing, and I have less of that writer, like, oh no, but I love this scene, and I get to direct it from a point of view of like, well, the scene's actually like, what's this doing for the story? Or like, why do we need this extra location? I get to think of it with a more critical brain, even though I wrote the script. So I do think the time has benefited me in that way. It's been very soul crushing in a lot of other ways.
Sounds about right. That makes sense. With writing a thing and then 3 years later, still looking at it, and you've done a lot since then. So I'm sure it's yeah. Okay. Indie filmmaking. All right. So the objective here is to direct your feature film directorial debut. Um, you're not acting in this one,
I think
or
I would give myself a part, but I'm
okay,
not the lead.
you'll
I'm neither of the female leads.
you'll
No.
pop up
I'll
somewhere.
pop up and maybe I'll say a line or two.
Sounds great.
Yeah.
Love that. Okay. What else about the indie okay. I don't know what to ask about the
That's okay. We've been
know.
talking for an hour and a half. I think we're probably good.
Let me just see if there's any burning
Of
questions
course,
before I let you
Of
leave.
course. No, I'm happy to be here. I'm going to talk about Linkin Park. I gotta
please.
plug my writing and yoga retreat.
Yeah, I love it. I thank you for being here so much.
Of course, we've been trying to do this. We've been talking about doing this for about I don't know a year on Instagram. So we finally made it happen.
All right, I'll keep the topic slider here. I do want to. What did you say here, Billy? Okay. I liked how you used the term slaps. This is dumb. That's not a topic to talk about. Because you were talking about how you're a multi-hyphenate and that when you have the opportunity to focus on one thing
it slaps.
that slaps.
It is really nice to I honestly thought I was a better I thought I was better when I was doing multiple things, and in some ways I do think that is the case. But being able to act and not think about directing was a gift I did not expect, because I'm always acting and then I'm like still with my directing brain, I'm still thinking of like, wait, let's change the shot. And it's nice to really let go and let someone take that control over.
Yeah, I agree with
very vulnerable.
That sounds very vulnerable.
It really is.
I thought you were saying it as a joke.
No, it's very vulnerable to just fully be present as an actor and not think about what you look like, not think about not judging yourself in that way. I used to watch every take I did because I was directing, and when we made The End of Us, I didn't watch anything. They wouldn't even let me watch a take.
Yeah, you trust it.
It makes you really have to just let go.
Yeah, love that. I also love the cake scene in that one too. That little bit was fun. That was cute. The little baby cake.
Yeah.
All right, what else do I got before scrolling through? Look at all my notes here. I got a lot of notes here.
Thank you for doing such thorough research.
We got 10 more topics. Let's see. All right, I think I'll just ask. This will be our final one. I want to keep
and we
it
can
light.
go all day.
It's fine. No, it's fine. It's good. I don't want to talk about Ukraine. I don't know. Do you have anything? Okay. I guess we don't. Okay, this is it's topical, and it's interesting, and it's a crazy world we live in, and I know it's weird because we're like in Los Angeles over here, living creative lives, and then we see stuff on our feeds and stuff, and that's just weird. And I mean, I don't really know how to process it or what I'm supposed to be, I don't know, but that's a thing.
Yeah, no, it's very hard to process. It's really, really disturbing and tragic, and it's just also tragic because the United States, we are so often the cause of tragic things happening in the world with our constant imperialism and, need to control everything. And so it's specifically weird looking at things, I think, through an American eye for me sometimes. And I'm just hoping we don't get involved.
Yeah. I know that I've been mostly contextualizing it through a script supervisor friend of mine who lives in New York. She's from Russia, so she has a lot of family there, and she's definitely got her. She's resharing all the stuff and
I'm
kind
sure
of
that's awful.
helping contextualize like what's going on and all that. So that's how I'm doing it, but I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't want to end on that. What I want to end on is there was an article written. You were interviewed at some point about I think this is maybe BuzzFeed days, but that you're creating a lot of pieces based on the experience of what it means to be a millennial woman.
Those were the words that Nylon used. I
Right,
have never
correct.
said I'm creating things about being a millennial woman, but I think, yes, Nylon wrote an article about me a few years ago. Thank you, Nylon. And the headline was like, Ali
Right.
Vingiano is creating videos that say,
Mm-hmm.
show what it means to be a millennial woman.
And yeah, I guess that was our interpretation of
Yeah.
your stuff. It's not a question.
What's the
No,
question?
no, no, no.
Do I
There's
do
no.
I
No,
do I approve of the headline?
no.
I was surprised,
You're,
but I was like, sure, I guess if that's how you see it, I'll okay.
Yeah, it makes sense. I did read the first couple sentences of the thing. No, I don't. No, I don't.
What is happening? You've done 57 episodes of this?
I'm a pro. I'm a pro. But yeah, no, I like to backtrack and second guess mid question.
It's classic. We're in LA. We have to have some, the writer, artist, filmmaker, director insecurity.
Yeah, 100%. We don't need to pretend to be something that we're not, all right? Okay, so I think that's kind of it. Like I'm pretty good. I think I'm happy.
Great.
Yeah, I guess I'm just excited about like what you got coming next. I know I'll be keeping in the loop with you on
Thank
this whole
you.
feature endeavor.
Thanks.
I don't know what timelines look like in that world. I feel like it's indefinite.
Yeah, I mean, it's tough. But like I hopefully this year will make it, and if not, I think, the TV world is so popping right now. And I would love to, if not, sell it as a TV show maybe, or just staff again on another show. So, yeah, I'm excited to see what's next too. I really don't know.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think, okay, I'll backtrack to our first when we met each other. I feel like I don't recall 100% or if I'm even remembering this correctly, but were you into potentially, do you make small stuff anymore, or are you trying to like the features the next thing and you don't want to do it?
I mean, this is a great question because I almost made a short film last year and then I hesitated and then I didn't. And I am still sort of compelled to. Like, I think I'll give my, I obviously would rather make a feature.
Sure.
But I'm not opposed to making small stuff anymore. It's still really rewarding and fun and great. And it's just that I've been wrapped up in trying to write and trying to pitch stuff, and working on the feature has been like a surprising amount of like meetings of like casting and like which financier should we go to, and like like the agency that's selling it. Like there's just a lot of different moving parts, but I do want to make something this year. So whether or not it's the feature or short film, I definitely yeah, I would like to do that.
Gotcha. So yeah, you might gauge on like, well, if it's not happening, we'll do this. Yeah, we'll do. Yeah. You'll figure something else out. Great. Okay. That's our show, everybody.
Thank you guys for watching. I'm Ali Vingiano.
Yes. Where can people? You're on IG as.
Oh yes, I'm on IG as the real Ali Vingiano, and I'm my yoga retreats are Write and Flow Yoga on Instagram or writeandflow.com. And I think that's really it. I don't really use Twitter anymore, but I am on Twitter at Ali Vingiano. And yeah.
Lovely. Okay. Bye, everybody.